77!
77! Good afternoon.
Oh, man.
What's up?
Tuesday, right? Yeah, Tuesday.
Is it only Tuesday? I feel like it's already Thursday or Friday.
And we had a long week last week, so we didn't say hello to a lot of people, but now we're back and say hello to everybody out there.
What's up, America? What's up? Well, not just America, we're all over.
Yeah, I see a lot of hits in Belgium on our stats, so welcome, people of Belgium. I know we get hits out in India, Ireland, a bunch of different countries worldwide, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Really appreciate the support, and especially our fans in Kansas City.
What's up,
That listen to us
KK?
on KKFI out there. Hope everyone.
We got to make it out there. We got to take a trip. We really do.
Yeah, like I said, Bob Kendrick is someone that I know for a long time. He's the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum out there in Kansas City, which really dives into the history of baseball from well before Major League Baseball and goes into how Jackie Robinson, Hank Aaron, Willie Mays all started there. And he's a really great guy. If you've ever talked to him, and I know a lot of people have that I know that listen to the show, that are friends of the show, and he's just a genuinely great guy. So try to get in touch with Bob, maybe go hang out at the museum, maybe see if Bob will even let us do a little podcast from the museum. We'll try to get that. We'll see. Well, can't guarantee anything, but we'll see. Right?
Absolutely.
And then thank you to a few people this week. I saw we had some Vin and Mike purchases of our T-shirts and a long sleeve shirt I saw get purchased.
Wow.
I think we know who that was that grabbed that one. So we appreciate the support. And like we said, all that money that comes in, which, like I said, is not that much, but what it is, it goes to a charity, and we wait for it to get to a certain level, and then we donate it. So we appreciate everyone going to vinandmikepodcast.com. Check everything out there. Our old shows are there. The store's there. There's our About Us page, gives a little perspective on us, if you really care, which, I'm not sure how many people really care. But
Really, your biography, I mean, it's one of the best.
one of the best, very simple, short and sweet. Not like some of these other biographies. Like I read Dan Abrams' biography the other day. I couldn't believe the amount of shows this guy does and the amount of work he does. Like, when does he sleep? He's like on GMA at like 7 a.m. when I wake up on a Friday, and at midnight he's still doing On Patrol Live, on the Reels channel there. So the guy's basically been up for like 18 hours.
I used to think that way about Boomer Esiason. I still do, like what he does.
Yeah.
The radio show, then he's got the CBS football show, then he's got another show, I think, on HBO.
Yeah. Stephen A. Smith now also. He's really expanded. Did you know Stephen A. Smith is a regular contributing actor to General Hospital?
No.
Yeah, he is.
That's a fun fact. I would never think that in a million
He's
years.
actually been on like 30-something episodes of General Hospital.
No, that's a great
He's
question.
like a hitman or something.
Yeah, that's crazy. I never would even thought. Like,
Yeah, he's got a recurring role on General Hospital.
that's crazy.
I know. I was like, look at this guy doing everything. So, but talking about Stephen A. and I know he was diving into some basketball last night and today. So let's dive right in, Mike. I don't know where you want to start. Which part of it? You want to start with the sweep of the Lakers? Do you want to talk a little bit about the Celtics? Where do you want to start?
Well, I think even before that, because we didn't get a chance to meet last week, just really summarizing the Knicks season and where we stand, because now we look at this Miami Heat team who's steamrolling through the Celtics, and you look back at that Knicks series, and you're like, damn, the Knicks played them tough. Got to say this about the Knicks. To me, people were asking me, do you feel the Knicks had a successful season? There's no doubt in my mind the answer is yes. They exceeded all expectations. Jalen Brunson, who came in, exceeded many expectations, including ours from the beginning of the year, when we thought, you know what? We thought he was going to be good. We did not understand the caliber, what he's done for this team as a leader, right? And it's funny because we all wanted Donovan Mitchell, And there was a good possibility that he would become a Knick. But Jalen Brunson, his whole game, from outside shooting to that little jump shot that he has, to the passing ability, right chemistry on the court, and then midway through the season, Josh Hart comes as a support player. Look what he did for that organization. And now the question, is surrounded by Julius Randle, right? What happens with him? I've always been fair to Julius Randle. A couple years ago against the Hawks, he choked. There's no doubt he choked in the playoff series. And then there was a lot of credibility issues with the fans and what he did, and was he able to win them back? And he did during the regular season. He absolutely did. Most of the regular season, he was on point. But then playoff times, as the guys on TNT always said, that's where true leaders stepped up, and that's where he did not. It was a lot of one-on-one isolation basketball. It was the attitude in press conferences, saying in the Miami series, for example, they want it more than we do. You can't be saying that stuff. Do I think he's a talented player? Yes. But that's where he really had to stand up. Because if you look at that last game against Miami, they lost by 4 points. And you can't expect Jalen Brunson to be throwing up 35, 40 each game. You can't ask him of that. He does, and he'll do anything that it will take, like playing 48 minutes. But you need those players like Julius Randle to step up, and that didn't happen. So I could legitimately see a trade this offseason. They'll really have to look hard at the salary cap to see what they could do. I could also see an R.J. Barrett be part of that. R.J. Barrett had a good season. He's a young player, a lot of potential, but very sporadic. But I still think the Knicks are that one player away from greatness. I think they had a great season. There's a lot to build on, but now you have to really look at the players on that floor, really look at the chemistry of those players who really gels, and think about the ones that you could get to really take your team to the next level. But in summary, was so happy this year. There was so much optimism. It was fun watching those games, playoff games at the Garden. They won that series against Cleveland. And to me, that was a huge win for them. They played a Miami team very tough that we see now. It's just steamrolling right through the Celtics and Milwaukee. So hats off to the Knicks. I cannot wait till next year. I can't wait to see what moves they make. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. I mean, to me, the Julius Randle move would be fantastic. You got to, like you said, you got to match salaries. So they got to figure out what they're going to give up on top of letting Randle go, if they even can go in that direction. You're not sure what other teams or general managers feel about him, so that's a big thing. I read something, I forgot where it was, but they were saying the Knicks were in discussions with the Bulls during the season to trade Quickly and Derrick Rose to Chicago for Zach LaVine. So maybe somewhere in the cards there, they can revisit something similar. Bring Zach LaVine in as our number 2 with Brunson. If you could give up a little there, and then maybe you can move Randle and someone else and bring in another player that way and build it that way. So maybe that's something they could think of in the offseason. But to your point, it was a really good season for the Knicks. First time they won a playoff series in 10 years. They're moving forward. Everything is like at the top right now as far as you're feeling good about this team, especially the age of Jalen Brunson, the kind of player he was, the output he put in against the Heat, really took control of the game, gave everything he had. And that's all we could ask for. He gave everything that he had, played exceptionally well in the playoffs on the biggest stage. You're in Madison Square Garden. We know how it is. It's a tough place to play. It's a tough city to be in, and he just really stepped up in every aspect of it. I heard somebody say maybe the Donovan Mitchell trade could still be on the block because maybe Cleveland wants to make a move. I don't see it. I think Cleveland realizes how good Mitchell is, and they're building around him, and they're going to be a tough team, I think, next year as well. And we'll see. I think the team that interests me moving forward now, Mike, and we'll just jump right into it, as the Celtics, in that very potential sweep can happen tonight. Would be the first time in NBA history with the way the playoff system is set up that both the Western Conference and Eastern Conference finals ended in a sweep. The last time it was 3-0 in both conferences was 2015. I saw that last night watching the Nuggets-Lakers game. So I don't know. Tatum and Jaylen Brown, we know what they are, but this team hasn't, been able to get to that next level for them, right? And there's got to be some thought process there, especially with this, I want to say, quote unquote, they gave up in game 3 mentality. They quit in, game 3 mentality. And a lot of people think Missoula gave up by benching everyone in the fourth quarter, that there's no way he should have done that, because that was a do or die game for them. You can't go down 3-0, because teams that go down 3-0 in the NBA playoffs are now 0-150 when we include the Lakers loss last night. So I don't know. If you're Boston, would you look to move a Jaylen Brown? I know you're probably not going to move Tatum, but I think Jaylen Brown might be the guy they look to move. What are you thinking?
Couple comments about the series. So you mentioned Missoula benching. Yeah, I absolutely disagreed with that. And even though you were down by a lot of points, even if you didn't win a game, at least it gave you some hope, right? Getting back into it, getting some momentum back. That was quitting. And we saw what Magic Johnson wrote. 44 years in the NBA. He looks at the Lakers. Obviously, it's his team, but the Lakers and Celtics have always been the dynasty. 17 championships each. And you look at that, and he said he just said he would never thought that they would quit like that. That's Magic Johnson saying that, right? Going into this series, they gave Miami a 3% chance to win. I thought, looking on paper, that the Celtics were the more talented team.
Yeah.
But the team with the grit and the heart have been Miami. Look at all the undrafted players.
Yeah.
Look at what Eric Spoelstra versus Joe Mazzulla as a coach.
Not even close.
That's it. It's not even close. It's coaching. Spoelstra, right? I noticed even when the Heat were up by a lot and the Celtics dug into that lead, maybe got 6 points. Timeout. Reset. Get your team together. Mazzulla was not doing that. And things got away pretty quickly from the Celtics. So to me, this is pretty devastating for the Celtics organization, because, you got to the NBA Finals last year, and now you're ultimately could be swept tonight by Miami Heat. I'm not taking anything away from Miami, but you look on paper before that series and the talent that the Celtics had versus Miami. To me, I think most people thought the Celtics would be winning this series, or if anything, maybe be even at worst. But to be down 3-0, that's not just the players, that's coaching.
Yeah, and I tell you, the one thing that I heard Shaquille O'Neal bring up is the unselfishness of a superstar like Jimmy Butler, because Shaq said, if it was him, he wants to shoot that ball 30 times a game in these big playoff moments. And Jimmy Butler is shooting the ball as much as Gabe Vincent there in game 3, because he knew, how important it was to have that teamwork and be able to distribute the ball to everyone and get everyone involved. Right. So, I thought that was a pretty interesting observation from Shaq when it came to distributing the ball.
Yeah, Vinny, you said it best. I mean, Jimmy Butler had a modest game last game. He had 16 points, right? But then Bam 13 points, Vincent 29, Max Struss 10, Martin 18, Duncan Robinson, who's been unbelievable, 22, right? And then Kyle Lowry, who I also love, right? 7 points, but still. They got production, they got bench scoring, and just again, everyone chipped in, right? They weren't relying on Jimmy Butler, whereas I think the Celtics tend to rely on Tatum, right? That's the difference.
Yeah. And you mentioned Caleb Martin. I think he's another undrafted player that they have on top of Gabe Vincent. It's Spoelstra. And we've said it many times. The guy's he's a Hall of Fame coach. I mean, bottom line, he gets everyone in the right place. He gets everybody all on board. They play really good defense. The flow of the game is there. His substitutions are are fantastic. He knows how to manage the entire process, and just amazing to have his coaching out there. And one of the unsung heroes, they say, of that team that he's like a player coach is Haslam, who's been on the team for 20 years, which is amazing. I think it's him, Kobe, and Dirk Nowitzki that have been on one team for more than like 19 seasons or something.
Right.
So I think those were the other two, was Dirk and Kobe that they were mentioning. So it's just 20 years on one team, championships. But they say his player coaching, he's the 13th man on the bench, right? He doesn't touch the floor, but it's just his ability to work with the younger guys and work with the team is a big thing for Spoelstra and for that team.
Yeah.
Well, and you got to take that into consideration, that you have so many young guys on these NBA teams that when you have a Haslam or a LeBron James, and you can go down Jeff Green, right? Like with the Nuggets, guys like that have been through it and can give you a little bit more, in terms of preparing for a playoff series and what you're going to see and how to deal with the fans and deal with the media and all that stuff. I think it plays a big part in the success sometimes of these teams. You forget that, maybe they don't have the extreme talent, not that LeBron, that's a whole different story, but a guy like Jeff Green, who's been around so long and played with so many teams and won championships, he probably brings a little bit of a coaching, esque mentality to Denver to help Malone and get some of those younger guys on board. So I think Haslam gives the Heat a lot of those things, maybe, that Boston needs. I'm not sure, what Al Horford actually provides him in those terms and things like that. But it's something to think about.
I want to ask you something, two
Yeah.
things, and then I want to talk about an unrelated stat. Do you think the Celtics get swept tonight, or the Heat take this? Or Boston could come out?
I can't see Boston winning a game in Miami. Miami hasn't lost. First of all, Miami hasn't lost a game in Miami this whole playoffs. That's the first thing. And the second thing is Jimmy Butler is the best player on the court. I think it's shown. It's as great as LeBron was or is, and still was last night, that the Joker there was just better, right? And I think that sometimes plays into why teams win series and why they win certain games. And I just think Jimmy Butler is the best player on the court in this series right now, and I think that's going to be the difference again tonight. And I think we're going to have back-to-back sweeps. Yeah,
it's never happened before. We can make history tonight.
Yeah.
Now, with the unrelated stat, I posted something on our Instagram recently. Speaking of greatness,
yeah.
From 1990 to 1998, Mr. MJ did not lose 3 games in a row.
Right.
That to me is unbelievable.
Yeah.
If you think about that and how teams go into slumps, even to me, that's just like a mini slump, 3 games. It's not a huge slump, Yeah.
Again, I don't want to disparage anyone or anybody, and I think the younger fan knows how great LeBron is, and I don't take anything away from LeBron. I think he's one of the 3 greatest players ever, right? I always consider Kareem up there, but I don't think, when you really look at it and look at just the sheer numbers, the way the game was played, the whole thing, that you just can't compare anyone to Michael Jordan.
Right. No.
It's not fair to them in a way. We talk about NBA on NBC, how big it was and the amount of eyes and everything. And then the way the game was played, the physicality of it. You saw LeBron push Aaron Gordon with the forearm in the neck last night, right? And everyone got oh, here we go. But that was every single game in the 90s playoffs, right? There was constant pushing, shoving, guys knocking each other down, fights, Van Gundy grabbing Alonzo Mourning's leg, all that stuff that went on, Oakley and Xavier McDaniel. Jordan was involved in all that.
Everything. Right? He always had a part.
Always,
whether he was the hero or the villain, he had a part.
Yeah, he got beat up in a lot of games against Detroit. He was part of those Chicago teams that were tough against the Knicks and the Pacers and the Lakers and the Trailblazers and all those teams that they played in finals and all those tough matchups that they had throughout the time. So the game was different, the style was different, and Jordan excelled. He beat everyone. I always remember, I think I told this probably 100 times on the podcast, when Charles Barkley said at no time in his life did he never feel he wasn't the best player on the court until the 93 finals when Phoenix, and they just couldn't beat Michael Jordan. At that point, it was the first time in his life he felt he wasn't the best player on the court. So that's just the way it is, and again, LeBron is a special talent. I thought he gave everything he could last night. He had a massive first half and gave every ounce of energy, and it was done, right? He couldn't play in the second half, essentially. I think he scored 9 points in the second half. Couldn't make a three anymore. His legs are done, right? He gave everything he could. 24 minutes, and the other 24 minutes, he's 38 with a guy that's played in more games than anyone. All the playoff games, all the Olympics, all the stuff. And he's 38. He's been playing 20 years at a high level. Remember, he came into the league and was instantly a starter, right? Instantly a starter. Wasn't, brought in slow like a lot of these guys. Played a lot of minutes early in his career, all the way throughout. So I just look at it. Yes, LeBron is great, but he's not Michael Jordan. He's just not. And it's just the way it is. And you can, like you say, you pull these little stats out about Jordan as you go along the way.
Surprising, but pretty incredible.
But like I tell people, the one thing that impressed me about Jordan, the one stat that always impresses me, is 6 NBA Finals, 6 championships, and none of them went to a Game 7. Not a single one. So, to me, that's just the most impressive stat when it comes to everything else that he's done. To me, that always impresses me.
Yeah. Now going back to that Denver series, Lakers. Did you see Jokic? Did you see that off-balance 3 last night? Is there anything this guy can't do? Like
the shots he was making last night, he made 2 of them. They were ridiculous, high-arcing, 40-foot fadeaway shot. There was one shot he made where it looked like the Lakers were pushing him, to the top of the key and past the 3-point line. It looked like he was traveling, and he just throws his ball up and and then the one he put over Anthony Davis was even more ridiculous. Like off one leg. They originally called it a 2-pointer, then they switched it to a 3. That was even more ridiculous. Even LeBron, did you see him? He went to make the pass to – looked like he was trying to throw an alley-oop to Tristan Thompson, and he actually threw in a 3-point shot instead. So – I mean, it was an incredible game last night. But, yeah, I mean, Jokic is just – I don't know. He's just fantastic.
He's on a different level.
I love how he sees the entire court. And he's a big man.
Big presence.
Ball like he's a 6'2" point guard.
Yeah.
Being able to transfer it. But he just got tremendous vision. His court vision impresses me more than anything. He's always around the ball, which is, one thing. But his ability to see, like, Aaron Gordon under the Newport, Murray for a 3, or how he gets the ball to Michael Porter in that same corner all the time. Michael Porter takes that 3-point shot from the corner with no one around him more times than I see anyone, just because Jokic has so much attention to him, and he knows exactly where those guys are going to be. Just impressive, his court vision for me.
Yeah, he's the leader. He leads that team. But his agility, like you said, his agility as a center, a big man, and you know what's crazy? Here's a guy who was a 2nd-round draft pick.
Yeah. If you look at his career numbers, it took him a while until he got to the level.
That's what makes his story, I think, special. Yeah. He wasn't in this 1st-round draft.
No. Yeah, I think he averaged 10. I think he averaged 10 points his rookie season or something.
Yeah.
And Malone had to get him to learn to shoot more because he's such a good passer and distributor, and he's so good at it that he legitimately could be a point guard in the league and take like eight to 10 shots a game. But he's such a good scorer. They need him to shoot more. Mike Malone had to basically implore him to shoot more. Like, you need to start shooting more. We need you to start shooting more. And then once he really started shooting more, now he's at a whole different level.
Yeah. I had to watch those highlights a couple times because of those shots.
Oh, it's impressive. It was an impressive game last night. They held the Lakers to 38 points in the second half. The Lakers scored 39 points in the second quarter last night. So they held them below what their output was in the second quarter. I think it was 73. I want to say 73-58 at half, if I remember right.
Yeah, there was a 15-point up. Yep, you're right.
Yep. I'm watching the game, and then, of course, I'm flipping back and forth at some points in the game to channel 597 on the Verizon, which had the World Poker Tour Clash of Champions from 2018 that Scotty Wynn was playing and Mike Sexton was also playing. I wanted to, watch that. I probably watched it when it first came out back in five years ago, but I just wanted to flip back and forth once in a while to check that out. So I was watching a little.
Have a quick shout out to Doyle Brunson. We really, as our audience may know, Doyle Brunson passed away a couple weeks ago now.
Yeah. Well, tell our audience who he is. For people that don't know who he is.
I mean, for those people who don't know him, one of the premier original godfather of poker. I mean, he was really, to me, when I first started hearing about poker, I would always hear his name. His name was always associated with it. Yeah. And you would always see him on TV playing in the poker tournaments and looked up to him a lot. I mean, he was just a name, right? So even if you didn't know poker and you turned on the poker channel, you saw Doyle Brunson. And he had such a presence to him. He always had the cowboy hat and, just loved joking around. And, my story associated with it was back when I lived in Hoboken, we would have poker games every week with the guys, and they would always either have the NBA games on, and if not the NBA, we would have the poker games on, right? And people, we would freeze it and then watch, like, oh, look what he did, look what hand they had, always analyzing. And Doyle Brunson was just always a great presence. So he was definitely an inspiration to me. And then when I had the opportunity in Atlantic City, it was a small tournament, but nevertheless, I got to the final table, and it was just one of the greatest feelings ever, being able to just learn and grow and play that game and be able to get to a final table. So
yeah. I mean, when you start learning to play poker, when we did in probably the early 90s, somewhere in there, late 80s, depending on when you really played, he wrote Super System, which really was the first book that told you how professional poker players played poker, how they bet, how they looked at odds, what hands you would play, how to play, 9 people table, short tables, heads up, all that stuff was all in that book. They did revisions of it in the early 2000s when poker really, took off with Chris Moneymaker and, winning the World Series of Poker, and how ESPN covered it like it was the World Series of baseball, right? I mean, they really, really went detailed coverage of it in the early 2000s. But that book was the Bible of poker for a lot of guys that were learning to play poker in the 90s, which, was us. And you either got tidbits of it, or you read the whole book, or somebody had it and would share it with you and things like that. But, Doyle Brunson is known for winning 2 World Series of Pokers back to back, and he won both of them with 10-2 as the final, cards in his hold'em hand. So they call 10-2. I think they call it Old Dolly, right? That was his nickname, right? So I think that's what they call 10-2 now when you get it. So he'll be forever known for not only what he did as far as promoting poker, from the 70s, 80s, all the way up until today. But if you get a 10-2 in the hole, you know that you've gotten Doyle Brunson's hand there at that point.
It gives you, you want to play that.
He always played it. He would never fold it. He would always play it.
Yeah, I always say with poker, you have, for audience who hasn't played, you have blinds that you go into, and if people call, there's no increase in the blinds. You could get like a 7-2, 10-2. It doesn't matter. You don't know what's going to come out. That's the greatest thing about poker, that there's no such thing as a bad hand. It's about how you play it.
Yeah, it's how you bet, right? It's like
how you bet.
It's all, like, again, it's all in the book, like where you're sitting, in comparison to the blinds and all that stuff. That's all part of Super System and how to play poker. And Texas Hold'em is just a whole different game. I think, what was it in rounders? Poker's just luck. And I think he says, well, why do the same 5 players make the final table in World Series of Poker, right?
Right.
It's not all luck. There's a skill involved in it that you need to figure out how that skill works. Yes, there's sometimes lucky draws and river cards and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, the best players, the guys that know numbers, know how to make bets, read people, understand people, the whole aspect of it, are the reason why they win all the time. So it's very interesting.
When you played, are there any hands that you were involved with that just stand out to you that you got into, any tournaments or any time you played?
Yeah. So I remember playing. So as you know, I like to play Omaha. So I'm not going to explain Omaha. It will take 20 minutes of the podcast.
No, don't bore.
If people want to read Omaha, read about it. So basically, I had 2 kings in the hole, and there was a king on the board. So essentially, you play the 2 cards in your hand, and you play three cards on the thing. Now, if I'm correct, there was 2 7s also on the board. So I think I had the kings and 7s. The problem was the person I was playing had a pair of 7s. The crazy thing, Mike, is the river. So I was all in. He was all in. It was like this massive pot online, old school party poker. I was like, oh my God, I totally lost this game. The river card was a king. I went and I beat him 4 of a kind kings, his 4 of a kind 7s. I felt terrible for
that. Was that the bad beat jack? That could have been the bad beat jackpot. No.
Basically, I was the number 1 chip holder in the tournament.
Oh, it was a tournament play.
Yeah, and I finished 3rd overall in the tournament back in the party poker days. So that was the reason. Like from then on, I just milked it to the final table because there was no reason to play hands anymore because I had so many chips. And Omaha's not a game where you can really muscle people. Like Hold'em, you can muscle people more. You can constantly raise. Omaha, there's so many different outs and everything, and people play a lot of those outs because you get a lot of suited pairs, you get a lot of high pairs, it's just a whole different game. So you got to be careful in what you did. But I was surprised the guy had 2 7s in the hole. I swore he had like king 7 or something like that. I did not think he had 2 7s. Yeah. I thought I had him easy. And I ended up getting, I freaking, lucked out. But it is what it is.
Good story.
That's what I remember. So, all right. Instead of us boring our audience here, let's talk a little bit about New York Yankees baseball.
All right.
New York Yankees. So I'm going to give you an interesting stat right away. Yankees are 29-20. Last year, they were 56-20. We forget the historic start that the Yankees had. But here's the thing. When they were 56-20, They went 43 and 43 the rest of the season.
Remember that? Yeah.
They played 500 baseball the rest of the season,
yep.
and didn't even win 100 games. They were on pace to win like 120, and they didn't even win 100 games, and really faltered in the second half of the season, and really discouraging. But before all this, and I'm going to just say it now, Mike. You ready?
Go ahead.
Aaron Hicks. Do you have the rest in peace like montage there?
I think you heard what you were talking about last time.
Finally, Aaron Hicks is gone.
Yeah, they listened to you.
Assignment. On his way to who knows where. Thank you, Aaron Boone. Thank you, Brian Cashman. Thank you. Get them out. Let's get these young guys in playing. I like Bowers. Like I said, I like IKF playing the outfield now. I think he's a lot better out there. His bat's starting to get a little bit better, but he could still go, in my opinion. But at least now we got Bowers.
Yep.
Cabrera come back. We know Stanton's going to come back from the injured list. Judge is healthy. Harrison Bader, he's looking like the real deal. Fantastic defense. Some clutch hits. Rizzo having a massive bounce back season. The shift, if anybody's done well with the shift being outlawed, it's definitely Anthony Rizzo. His average is, I think he's batting 300, and a fantastic year as the number 3 hitter behind Judge. So having that relief now, it's important.
Yeah,
Marino was back. He looked pretty good. We need him to stay healthy. We need Cole to keep being Cole. Now I'm hearing Carlos Rodon. The cortisone shot worked. His back's feeling good. He's spending time with the team now. He's doing all his rehab with the team. So he's traveling with the team. He's with the team. He's getting built in. I think, maybe July 1st, we get Rodon on the mound. So then we got Cole, Rodon, Severino.
Now we're talking about a rotation.
Tez moves down to the 4. You put Herman and his sticky stuff in the 5 hole there. These Yankees with the sticky stuff. Got to wash their hands in between innings. Managers getting ejected left and right on the other side because Yankees are allowed to have sticky stuff and not get ejected. I would lose my mind too if I was the other manager. So, but I'm liking the way the team's starting to set up. The bullpen has pitched really well. Yeah, got to give them a lot of credit. I think they got how many innings they went without giving up runs. Clay Holmes has been a lot better now. I think when Steve texted us, does anybody see that Clay Holmes is opening up before he releases the ball, and that's why his ball's sailing inside? Steve should be the Yankees pitching coach, because I think after he texted us that, somebody on the Yankees must have said, I think this guy's opened up too quick. Maybe Steve called Boone and said, hey, what's going on here? Yeah. But I feel a little bit better about this team. I'll tell you that. And then let me just quickly say about the Mets.
I was just going to ask you, going back, what do you think's really changed that's turning around for them?
Well, Judge is healthy. That's a big thing.
It has to be.
The bullpen's been great. So it's very important. Aaron Judge is such a integral part of the lineup, right? The guy that bats in front of him is got to see better pitches because you don't want him to hit. Right. The guy behind him is going to, have an opportunity to see better pitches because he's on base. It's like all those things that a superstar player brings to the team. Plus, he's the captain, right? That's the thing we got to remember. He's the captain. These young guys that are coming up, Volpe and Cabrera and Pedraza and Bowers and the young catcher, Rosevert, and, they look up to him. He's the captain, so to have him in the lineup and showing them how he does his day-to-day and everything that goes along with it, I think that's all important when it comes to it. So, and he hits a home run like every other day. Yeah. He goes from like 6 home runs to like 13 in a week.
Yeah. And now we move on to those Mets who are on fire right now.
Yeah, Scherzer, Verlander. bringing all those young guys up, Batty and the young catcher there. I forget his name, but that guy. They got all those young guys. Lindor's hitting Alonso. I tell you, Pete Alonso is very impressive. He is an impressive dude.
Scherzer's been so impressive.
He can hit that ball a mile.
Who's that?
Huh?
Who?
Alonso.
Alonso's amazing.
Very impressive. I really like him. Their bullpen, it is what it is. We know Diaz was supposed to be the closer. The injury really set them back because now Robertson has to be the closer and Ottavino's got to be the 8th inning guy. I know they'd rather it 7, 8, and 9 with Diaz that way, but the bottom line with the Mets, most important, is Scherzer and Verlander.
Keep those guys healthy.
They got to be 8-inning guys, 7-inning guys. They got to give a lot of length, and they're going to pitch games where they give up 1, 2 runs, 0 runs. So it's going to be a lot of winnable games with those 2 guys going, and then you fill in the blanks with the other 3 starters, and then that's it. You win those Verlander Scherzer games. You win another game with one of the other 3. That's 3 out of 5 every time, right? That's 60% of your games. Before you know it, you just start rolling them out, and then you start getting on some winning streaks.
Yeah.
And there you go. But those are the 2 guys.
We talked about this before the season. They had to be healthy.
They have to be. And neither one has been until right about now, right? Here we are, May 23rd. They're both probably the healthiest they've been together with the Mets, which is now, not a lot of games, about 50 games. So you still got more than half the season left, 2/3 to go. This is now the time for them to kick in gear and really pump them all the way to the end of the season. I just, that's the way I look at it. They gotta also beat the teams that are in front of them that are weak teams. Early on, they were losing to some bad teams on their schedule. Now they got to beat those bad teams, and eventually going to get to the Braves and the Phillies, and you got to win those kind of games. You got to win your division games, but those Braves games are going to be very important as you start going down into the summer, right? Like I said last year, the summer swoon. It's coming back. So that's when everybody's got to step up. I'll tell you the one thing I don't like about baseball right now. I don't like the extended wild card team. And the only reason I don't like it is it limits the trade market because so many teams are still vying for a playoff spot. And, with an extra wild card, you're not going to make trades. You don't get a lot of those cool deadline July 31st trades like you used to, Everybody now is just hanging around and saying, I'm like, why would the Angels trade Mike Trout when they're only 2 games out of the 3rd wild card?
That's a really good point.
Where a few years ago, Mike Trout is making $100 million. We can't win with him. We're going to lose Ohtani in the offseason to the Mets or the Yankees or the Giants or the Red Sox or someone that's going to pay him, $50 million a season. So we want to dump all this salary and get the best players we can, and you can't. I don't even know if they could trade Ohtani, at the trade deadline if they're still close enough in at the Angels,
That's a really good point about being more conservative because of that.
Yeah. Especially, listen, the Miami Heat are the perfect example. If you're in it, you got a chance to win it. This was a team that was in the playing series, right? They got to the 8th seed. They end up, playing the Bucks, playing the Knicks, playing the Celtics, and it looks like they're on their way to playing the Nuggets. And if somehow they beat Denver, which I don't see that, but again, I didn't see them beating the Celtics either. It'd be an amazing story for everything. Amazing story. I tell you, Boston's probably feeling it right now.
Yeah.
They thought their Bruins were going to go into the Stanley Cup and just ease their way.
They've had a tough year. They
must have been feeling really good about beating the Sixers and no Bucks in front of them and having home court against the Heat. And now looks like it's fading away. The Red Sox are fading themselves into last place. And Tom Brady has bought a piece of the Raiders. and has said, quote unquote, to me personally as a Raiders fan, the Tuck rule actually happened. I did fumble. You guys should have won that game. I'm just saying. I'm glad as the new owner of the Raiders, he's fessed up to me.
That is the greatest comedy.
On a private phone call, which I was not supposed to let everyone know, but I'm going to let everyone know.
That's funny.
Yeah. It was nice that Tom called me. He said, Vin, I know you've been a suffering Raiders fan since the age of 10 years old. It's the last time you saw them win a Super Bowl. So, the last 50 years of your life have been miserable. And, I know in that game that I fumbled. I'm just telling you what he told me.
I think he feels a guilt because that's why he's joining the Raiders now. That's why.
He also owns a piece of the Aces, the WNBA team out there in Vegas. Just so you know that too.
Oh, that's why he was making Twitter comments about. I was wondering why. I didn't know. I know.
Yeah, he owns a piece of the Aces. By the way, did you see the team the New York Liberty has put together this year?
I have not.
They got Breanna Stewart, who is like one of the greatest college basketball players ever. Yeah. And they got Sabrina Ionescu is still there, who's like the second greatest college player ever. That's both on the Liberty, on top of Janelle Jones and a few other like superstar like WNBA players. So
where do they play their games? They don't play at the Garden anymore.
No, they play at Barclays now.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, they're out in Brooklyn. Someone was asking me the other day that they went and saw. I think they said they saw the Devils play at the Brendan Byrne Arena or Izod Center or whatever it was called. When they're from Tampa and they saw Tampa play the Devils, I'm guessing years ago out there. I don't know what it was called. Now we know the Devils have moved into Newark. The Devils are in Newark now. But there's no professional teams out in East Rutherford now, right? But in the arena, besides the Jets and Giants and MetLife, but the arena doesn't have anything professional anymore, right?
I don't think so. I don't.
Maybe like arena football or lacrosse or something, right? But nothing else. I don't even know if they even have that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't even know I'm guessing they use it for concerts.
Yeah,
it's a good place to get deaf for a concert. I tell you, my ears rang for like 3 days when I used to see concerts in there. Probably why I can't hear now.
Hello?
Yeah. Just tell my kids. They'll tell you I'm deaf, blind, and dumb. Yeah, thanks. Glad I birthed you three. Mimi and Momo down the hallway. Oh God! All right, Mike. What else? Anything? Did we clear anything? You want to talk about anything?
I think we fit everything.
Do you want to talk about the XFL championship?
No.
Do you want to talk about the USFL's beautiful games on Sundays?
I'm sure you watched all of them.
Oh. I tell you, I enjoy watching my NASCAR races.
That's good. I know
they raced at one of the old tracks this weekend, North Wilkesboro, which they haven't raced there since 1996. They rebuilt the track and everything. It's got the old like pavement and everything. Kind of cool to see.
No, I know you love that.
They still have the Winston Cup logo on the building, which, as you know, the Winston Cup is no longer in existence. I don't think you even can talk about cigarettes anywhere in the United States anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we're looking at this episode 77. Nice number.
Yeah.
It's just like every time you turn around, we just keep going here. It's just I was looking at our Instagram today, as a matter of fact, just looking back at like pictures and people that were on, people that we were hanging out with, and
it changes over time.
It does.
How about National Treasure winning the Preakness? Bob Hartford,
no Triple Crown this year.
No. Belmont will be. Hopefully, we get.
That was a small field, though. The exact and trifecta paid nothing.
Even the superfecta paid less than $100.
When does that happen? It was such a small field. I didn't even bet it.
No.
I just it's not even worth it.
I actually forgot to bet it because I was playing Apples to Apples, the board game, with my son, and forgot all about it.
Okay, you're probably better off. I mean, the We'll focus on the Belmont.
I would hope we get more than 10 horses in the Belmont. I would think with
10 to 12.
With Mage losing and not having a triple crown, maybe we'll get like 12 horses.
I said 12. I said 10 to 12. Yeah.
So that'll be fun. What else? Good.
What else?
Oh, I heard Aaron Rodgers has been at OTAs, by the way.
Really?
Yeah. First time he's been at OTAs in a long time. So he's very serious about winning out here in good old New York.
I just see his demeanor with the teammates and going out. And listen, he wants this. I think it's a good change for him.
He's got a 2-year window.
2 years. That's it.
That's it. And he knows he knows what Tom Brady did in his move. He knows what Matt Stafford did in his move. Remember what Joy Taylor said, is he going to be Russell Wilson or is he going to be Matt Stafford?
I know.
So it's a big thing.
It's exciting. I want to fast forward.
Let's see. Garrett Wilson. I'm going to draft one of my fantasy teams. Garrett Wilson's going to be on.
No, he's the best.
Letting you know. I expect 100 catches from him. So you better call him and say, listen, Garrett, I know you're a big listener of Vin and Mike. You and Bart Scott hang out a lot.
Yeah. Bart loves us, man.
And, of course, Bart does. And I know that you're going to have 100 catches this season. Probably gave away some tidbits on my early draft tidbits. I tell you, I have one of the best guys as a commissioner of one of my leagues. He gets so excited that the release of the schedule and knowing that September 7th was the opening Thursday night game that he scheduled our draft for September 6th live in Carlstadt, like I tell you every year. So he already put it on the schedule.
What a guy!
Great guy there. So
all right,
Mike. Wait, you ready? I've been working on it.
I know. I may have to leave the room. Here it comes.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to Vin and Mike here on this Tuesday, May 23rd. We appreciate everybody being here and want to say have a lovely evening. Take care.
Just get out. I can't. Get out.
All right, Mike.
Goodbye. I can't look at you. Goodbye.